Well, hey, friend, I've got a quick question. Are you stuck in survival mode? You know what I mean. Pushing through the day, crashing at night, living in a cycle of self-doubt, shame, exhaustion. If that's you, I want you to know you're not failing. You're overloaded, and I've got something that can help. It's called the 3-Day Survival Mode Rescue Sprint. And in just 3 days, I'll walk you through simple tools to stop the spin, breathe again, and finally feel like you have control instead of the chaos having control. And if you know you'll need accountability, there's even a VIP option where we'll do the work together live. It's free to join, it's powerful, and it's your first step to becoming survival mode strong. Just visit survivalmodesprint.com to sign up for free today. So I need to tell you something that might sound a little radical. The world says the goal is to get out of survival mode. I say the goal is to get strong in it. If you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you know I don't do fluff. And here's what I believe. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're just carrying more than anyone can hold long term. And you've been telling yourself that surviving it makes you weak. But what if I told you that survival isn't failure? It's actually proof of your strength. I am so excited to talk to you, to open this dialogue, this conversation today, because when we start having these conversations among ourselves as women, this is when we start to move forward. This is when we begin to shift the narrative from you're doing something wrong to be in survival mode to what if you were doing something right? That's what we're going to unpack here today. I can't wait to jump in and get started. Well, hey there, my name is Jennifer Roskamp, and I am a certified life coach and homeschool mom of 9 who is passionate about helping women just like you embrace the here and now while also being focused on creating the life you actually want. As a midlife mom in her 40s, about to be a mom in my 50s, I've realized that it's so easy to lose yourself in caring for your family, your home, and all the things. Until one day you realize you're not even sure who you are anymore or what you even want in life. So on this podcast, we're going to work on managing yourself well so that you can manage all of the other things and people well too. So let's dive into what it means to manage your home, your time, your family, and yourself well. This is the Intentional Midlife Mom Podcast. Well, as I said in the intro, the world says that the goal is to get out of survival mode. And I say, what if we were to shift the way we thought about it? And what if we were to say that the goal is to get strong while in survival mode? Well, hey, I'm Jennifer Roskamp, and you know that I don't mince words. I don't hand out checklists and pretend that they're going to change your life. And I definitely don't believe in the lie that if you just try harder, organize better, or wake up earlier, everything will magically fall into place. But here's what I do believe. You're not lazy, you're not unmotivated, and you're not committed enough. You're just carrying way more than one person can manage, and you've been telling yourself that you're weak because you can't carry it all well. But again, what if I told you that survival isn't failure, but it's proof of your strength? And what if there was a way to not just endure the survival mode, but to become strong in it? That's what we're talking about here today. How to stop waiting for life to calm down and start building strength right where you are. How to become what I call survival mode strong. So let me start with a story that might sound a little bit familiar. Not long ago, I found myself sitting in my car in the driveway, too tired to even go inside. The house was a mess, dinner wasn't made, and I had that familiar spiral of thoughts running through my head. What's wrong with me? Why can't I get it together? Other women often seem to handle all of these things just fine. And that's when I realized something that changed everything. There wasn't anything wrong with me. And in reality, there wasn't anything that was different in so many ways from other women. I was in survival mode. And survival mode isn't weakness. It's proof that I was still standing. But here's the problem with how we've been taught to think about survival mode. We've been told it's a place to escape from. a temporary state that we should be ashamed of, a sign that we're failing or doing something wrong because if we just let ourselves get to that point, that was in some way of our own choosing. If we would just focus on self-care more and actually cared for ourselves, we never would have gotten there. But in that moment, I knew that I was in survival mode because I was carrying everything I needed to carry. And that despite the way I was caring for myself in the ways that I could, it still wasn't enough to keep me out of survival mode. Also, in that moment, I knew that all of this was due to no fault of my own, that really was a huge mental shift that I see so many are in need of too. We're told to get out of survival mode because nothing good happens there. And if you know me at all, you know one of my favorite questions to ask is this: who says? Who says that the goal is to get out of survival mode as fast as possible? But we're not there yet in this episode. I'll challenge the conventional wisdom more here in a bit. But for now, let's circle back to what the world tells us we're supposed to do, which is to avoid survival mode like the plague. And to do this, the productivity gurus tell us to get up earlier. The wellness coaches tell us to meditate more. The organization experts tell us to buy better planners. And when none of that works, when we're still overwhelmed, still exhausted, still feeling like we're drowning, we blame ourselves. And we think, if I was just more disciplined, if I was just more organized, if I was just more whatever. But what if the problem isn't that you're in survival mode? What if the problem is that you don't know how to be strong in it? Here's what I've learned after working with hundreds of midlife women. Survival mode isn't a character flaw. Survival mode isn't a character flaw, it's a season. And like any season, you can either let it break you down or you can learn to carry it differently. Think about it. Well, hey, friend, I've got a quick question. Are you stuck in survival mode? You know what I mean. Pushing through the day, crashing at night, living in a cycle of self-doubt, shame, exhaustion. If that's you, I want you to know you're not failing. You're overloaded, and I've got something that can help. It's called the 3-Day Survival Mode Rescue Sprint. And in just 3 days, I'll walk you through simple tools to stop the spin, breathe again, and finally feel like you have control instead of the chaos having control. And if you know you'll need accountability, there's even a VIP option where we'll do the work together live. It's free to join, it's powerful, and it's your first step to becoming survival mode strong. Just visit survivalmodesprint.com to sign up for free today. Every capable, high-functioning woman I know has been in survival mode at some point. You know the pattern. You're carrying too much. Tasks, mental load, emotional energy for everyone around you. You tell yourself you can handle it. You white-knuckle through the days, pushing harder and harder until one day you crash. You collapse on the couch, scroll for hours, or find yourself snapping at the people you love most. Then you feel guilty about the crash. So you do a tiny reset. Maybe you meal prep on Sunday, or you organize one closet, and then you dive right back in. You carry too much, you white-knuckle, crash, tiny reset, repeat. I call this the crash out cycle. And if you're listening to this right now thinking, how did she just describe my entire life? You're not alone. But here's what's wild. We've been treating this cycle like it's our fault. Like if we were just stronger, smarter, more organized, we could avoid it altogether. What if instead of trying to escape survival mode, we learn to navigate it with strength? What if instead of collapsing under the weight, we learn to carry it differently? What if survival mode wasn't something to be ashamed of, but something to get strong in? That shift from seeing survival as weakness to seeing it as strength, that's what I call strategic tension. And it's the foundation of really where I've come to realize pretty much every woman, especially every woman I know, needs to start. And that's what I'm about to share with you. It's pretty much what every woman I work with, talk to, or meet here and there and everywhere desperately needs to hear right now. We need to hear about strategic tension. My phone blows up nearly every day with texts from coaching clients and friends and all kinds of women I loosely know saying, I just can't anymore. I'm carrying so much and there's nowhere to go and no one to help lighten the load. These women are saying there's no room. There's no room for me in my own life anymore because I'm carrying all the things for everyone else. But I'm excited to start in a new place with you here today and share with you a concept that is likely nothing you've ever heard before. But if you've resonated with anything I've shared here with you today, even just a little bit, this is going to be a concept that you can identify with so deeply. And again, it's this concept called strategic tension. Well, what is it? Strategic tension is the gap between who you are right now and who you could be. It's the gap between what you would choose for your life, what you would choose for your life to be, and what it actually is. Most people run from this gap because it feels uncomfortable. They think the tension equals failure. But tension is not weakness, it's fuel. It's the bowstring pulled tight. Without tension, nothing moves forward. So let me explain this with another story. A few years ago, I was in one of those seasons where everything felt like too much. My husband was working full time and a half, at least, with the amount of overtime he was working. And so he was gone constantly. Therefore, I was managing the house, the kids, my business, and trying to keep everyone's emotional needs met. I was in classic survival mode. One morning, I woke up and I felt that familiar tension. The gap between where I was, which was essentially exhausted, overwhelmed, behind on everything, and where I wanted to be calm, in control, present with my family. In the past, I would have either collapsed under that tension or tried to muscle through it, probably muscle through it. But this time, I did something different. I named it. I said out loud, I'm in the gap right now. I'm in the gap between life demands, really between the demands of life, in essentially where life demands that I be right now and where I really wish that I could be. That took me a lot of words to explain that concept. Let me try it again. I realized that I was in this gap between where life necessitated I be and where I really wanted to be. And I had to give myself permission to be in that gap. I had to essentially say, I'm in this gap and that's okay. And so instead of running from the tension in that moment, I got curious about it. Instead of shame spiraling about how I should be handling things better, I asked, what is this tension trying to show me? What am I supposed to learn? What am I supposed to gain from this tension? And here's what I discovered. The tension wasn't a sign that I was failing. It was a sign that I was ready for change. The tension was not a sign that I was failing. It was a sign that I was ready for change. When you're in survival mode, you feel that tension constantly. The gap between the life you're living and the life you want to live, between the mom you are now and the mom you want to be, between how you're showing up and how you want to show up. And that tension, it's not your enemy, it's actually your fuel. But here's where most of us go wrong. When we feel that tension, we immediately try to fix everything at once. We make ambitious plans, we create elaborate systems, we promise ourselves we'll start waking up at 5 a.m. and meal prepping and working out and keeping a perfect house. And then, when we can't maintain all of that, because who could, we crash, we collapse. We tell ourselves we're failures. But what if instead of trying to eliminate the tension, we learned to use it strategically? What if instead of trying to leap across the entire gap in one bound, we learned to take one small step? I think every day I help women who I am working with in a coaching environment one-on-one with daily texting. I know that I help women scale back on making this gap every single day. Why do we want to do this? Why do we feel like we need to jump into the woman we need to become, that we want to become, all in one leap? Why do we do that? Because we don't like being in this in-between of the strategic tension. I just need this strategic tension to go away. I want to leap the bridge. I want to bridge the gap from where I am to where I want to be in one leap. Because to be a work in progress, and it means I'm sitting in this strategic tension. I'm sitting in this tension. And I say, let's make it strategic tension. In reality, when you are realizing where you are at and where you want to go, you don't have to see your strength yet. You just have to be willing to hold the tension without folding. Every time you feel that gap and you choose to not crash out, you're proving something powerful. You're proving I'm not broken. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not failing. I'm becoming survival mode strong. So let me tell you what this looks like in real life. Strategic tension is the moment when one more demand hits your already full plate, and instead of spiraling, you pause. You don't absorb it immediately. You don't automatically say yes. You don't carry it in your body as stress. You just pause. The only thing you do is pause. You quiet the noise. You keep any emotions that are creeping in outside of this boundary that you put up so that you've got room for that pause. That's one way that strategic tension will appear. Strategic tension is also when you set one micro boundary, like saying, I'm not dealing with this right now, for now, instead of carrying everything the moment it lands on you. Strategic tension is redefining what success looks like in survival mode. Maybe success today isn't a home-cooked meal. Maybe it's cereal for dinner, and everyone will still be fed. Not because you've given up, but because you're carrying the day wisely. Strategic tension is catching yourself before the crash and choosing one small stabilizer instead of waiting until you're completely derailed and depleted. This isn't about lowering your standards. This isn't about giving up. This is about building strength in the very place you thought you were weak. Now, I want to be clear about something. Becoming what I call survival mode strong, it isn't a one-time decision. It's a practice. It's something you build step by step, choice by choice. And it starts with something most of us skip: awareness. You can't fix what you don't name. You can't change what you don't see clearly. And most of us are so busy trying to keep up that we never actually stop to look at what we're carrying. I learned this the hard way during one of my own crash house seasons. I was preaching boundaries to my clients while completely ignoring my own advice. I was exhausted, that kind of bone deep exhausted, but I kept going because I told myself it was easier to just do it all than to face the pushback when I asked for help. I was over-functioning to avoid conflict. I was choosing burnout over boundaries. And the worst part, I knew better. I teach this stuff, but I wasn't applying it to myself. That season broke something open in me, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, honest reckoning sort of way. A return to truth, a reminder that boundaries aren't just something I teach. There's something that I have to live. There's something that you have to live. And that's when I realized becoming survival mode strong, it isn't just about individual techniques or strategies. It's about a complete identity shift. It's moving from I'm failing because I'm tired to I'm tired because I'm strong enough to carry this much. Let me repeat that. I'm tired because I'm strong enough to carry this much. It's moving from I should be able to handle this to this is a lot for anyone to handle, and I'm doing it. It's moving from I'm weak because I'm in survival mode to I'm survival mode strong. Have you ever heard anyone prior to this moment in time say, when you find yourself in survival mode, what if you just accepted that you're in exactly the right place? I'm waving my arms in the air. This is what I'm saying. I'm saying if you are in survival mode, what if you just accepted that you are in exactly the right place? And what if I said that you are entirely capable of taking residence there for as long as necessary? And you might say, but Jennifer, I don't feel strong. I am not survival mode strong. I feel weak. I feel like I'm on the verge of collapse, like I'm about to be dragged under. And if you and I were sitting across from one another, I'd tell you that you're feeling all the right things. And I'd also tell you that anyone can become survival mode strong as long as they are willing to start with a shift. And then I would look at you and I would ask you, are you wanting to become survival mode strong? And if you told me yes, I'd say, well, then let's go. Well, let me ask you something. Are you stuck in survival mode? Do you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world every single day, second-guessing every decision, blaming yourself for not being more motivated, and just trying to make it through without collapsing? If that sounds familiar, I want you to know this. Survival mode doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're overloaded. And that's why I created Survival Mode Strong, a 4-week guided program where I'll show you how to carry your load differently, how to set boundaries without guilt, and finally feel strong, steady, and confident again. You don't need another fix your life overnight promise. You need real tools that work in the middle of your real life. Go to survivalmodestrong.com. That's survivalmodestrong.com. It's time to stop just enduring and start living. So, how do you actually make that shift? How do you move from drowning to strength right where you are, even if nothing else in your external circumstances, even if nothing in your actual life changes? How does this shift happen? Well, it happens in 4 key areas. Think of them as the pillars of becoming survival mode strong. And if you don't already have something to write with, go grab it. Go grab it, friend, because you're going to want this. First, the first pillar is this: audit and awareness. There's that word again. I said you needed to have awareness, right? You have to see the invisible load for what it is. Most of us are carrying tasks, mental load, and emotional energy that we don't even realize we're carrying. We've absorbed it so completely that it feels normal. But when you actually write it down, when you do a master load audit and categorize what truly requires you, what can wait, and what can actually be released, something shifts. You realize you're not crazy. You're overloaded, and that anyone would be under the sheer weight of the load of what you're carrying. And that clarity itself brings about relief. I remember the first time I did this audit, I sat down with a piece of paper and started writing everything I was carrying, not just the obvious stuff, like work deadlines and kid stuff, but the invisible stuff. Remembering to buy birthday gifts, keeping track of everyone's schedules, monitoring the emotional temperature of the house, worrying about whether the kids are getting enough protein. And I poured out the emotions that I was carrying too. Boy, did that open a can of worms. The disappointments, the frustrations, the hurt, the betrayal, the sadness, all of it. And by the time I was done, I had filled more than 3 pages. More than 3 pages of stuff I was carrying in my head every single day. No wonder I was exhausted. But here's what was amazing. Just seeing it on paper made it feel manageable. It was not an easy button. But when you see it on paper, it feels manageable because when it's swirling around in your head, it feels immeasurable. When it's written down, it becomes measurable. It becomes something you can actually work with. Because why? Because you can see it, right? This is where the audit and awareness becomes pillar number 1. Pillar number 2, boundaries that stick. I know boundaries, right? We think this isn't just about saying no, although that is part of it. This is about protecting your capacity with shame-free boundaries. Boundaries with people means sometimes it's scripts for not now, and no. These stop right there. Not now and no. They don't require justification. Boundaries with incoming input. This is a skill that I call, it's using the pause and park strategy, where you don't absorb everything the moment it hits you. Boundaries with incoming input. There are very few things that need immediate, and I mean immediate, response from you. Pause and park. The power of the pause, right? And then there's boundaries with yourself, adding for now to release guilt. 2 of my favorite words. I know we've talked about them here on the podcast before. For now. I share them with my coaching clients every week somewhere as well. For now. And for now allows us to release the guilt. For now really means I'm not dealing with this right now. For now. I'm not going to shame myself for not dealing with this right now. I'm not going to shame myself for saying this can't be on my plate right now. But for now says maybe it could be later. That little phrase, for now, it gives you permission to be human without making it your permanent address. So boundaries that stick. That's the second pillar. The third pillar, carry differently. This really is where we redefine what success looks like in survival mode. This is where we create what I call a bare minimum reset. Daily, weekly, and monthly wins that allow you to carry your load without collapsing. Maybe your daily win is that everybody ate something. Maybe your weekly win is that the laundry, it moved through the system, even if it's not folded perfectly. Maybe your monthly win is that the important relationships in your life are still intact. This isn't about lowering your standards. This is about carrying wisely. This is about understanding that sometimes survival is the very best landing point. I think about those nights when my kids were little and dinner was protein bars and cereal for me. I used to feel like such a failure. But now I realize that wasn't failure, that was survival. That was me carrying differently so that we could all keep going. Carry differently. That's pillar number 3. Pillar number 4, build resilience. Man, you guys know this is one of my favorite words, resilience. All my coaching clients can talk about this for sure. And really, this 4th pillar is where you stop falling back into collapse and build stabilizers that hold. This is where you identify your relapse triggers, what makes you crash out, and create anchor habits that you can fall back. These are the things that you can fall back on when chaos hits. You need to create these anchor habits so that you can automatically fall back on them. Maybe your stabilizer is one 5-minute walk when you feel overwhelmed. Maybe it's one load of laundry when everything feels out of control. Maybe it's one text to a friend when you're isolating. These aren't big, dramatic changes. They're tiny stabilizers that keep you steady when everything else is shaking. This is what builds resilience. And here's what happens when you practice these 4 pillars together. You don't just survive, you stabilize. You don't just survive, you stabilize. One more time. You don't just survive, you stabilize. Do you see how this is shifting your experience with survival mode? This is what it means to become survival mode strong. So, what does that actually look like? Sounds awesome. How do I go there? Survival mode strong. This is what it looks like. It looks like a woman who can hold the tension without collapsing. It looks like someone who can say, I'm overwhelmed right now without adding, and that means I'm failing. It looks like a mom who can serve peanut butter and jelly for dinner and feel proud that she fed her family, not ashamed that it wasn't more. It looks like a woman who can set boundaries without apologizing for having her own needs. It looks like someone who takes off for the afternoon and heads to the beach because she knows she needs to matter more than everyone and everything else for the first time in what feels like months and maybe even years. It looks like someone who can be in the gap, that tension between where she is and where she wants to be without shame spiraling about not being to the other side yet. And let me tell you about one of my clients, Laura. When Laura came to me, she was in classic survival mode. She had 3 kids, she was working full time, and her husband was traveling constantly. She was drowning, but she kept telling herself she should be able to handle it. Laura's breakthrough moment came when, during week 2 of working together, her mother in law called on a particularly chaotic day and asked if Laura could host Sunday dinner for the extended family. In the past, Laura would have said yes immediately and then spent the entire week stressed and resentful. But this time, Laura paused and she said, "Let me check my calendar and get back to you." She bought herself time to think. And when she called back, she said, "I can't host this Sunday, but I'd love to bring something to whoever can." Laura told me later, "I didn't realize how powerful it felt to pause. Instead of react, I basically stood up and cheered. And I realized that I don't have to say no to everything. I just had to stop saying yes to everything automatically. I just had to stop saying yes to everything automatically. And let me say this, even if Laura would have, in the end, decided that she could host, she would have done the hosting from an entirely different place because she would have experienced the power of the pause first. That's what survival mode strong looks like. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about kind of return to who you've always been, someone who can trust herself to make good decisions, even in the middle of chaos. Another client, Maria, she had her breakthrough during week 3 of working together on this. She had been shame spiraling about how her house was messy, how her kids were eating too much takeout, and she was beating herself up about her lack of an exercise routine. She was treating survival like failure. But when we redefined success for her season, when we created essentially her bare minimum reset, everything shifted. Her daily win became everyone is fed. Urgent things are handled. I'm still breathing. Her weekly win became laundry moved. Important relationships were tended to, and something fun happened. Her monthly win became the bills are paid, the family is intact, and forward progress was made in some areas. And really, Maria said, I realized I wasn't failing at life. I was succeeding at surviving. And that's exactly what I had been fighting. And it's actually really easy to do with the right tools. That's the identity shift. That's what it means to become survival mode strong. Again, let's circle back to where we started. When you're in survival mode, you're not broken and you're not there because you failed. You're there because you're tired, and you're tired because you're strong enough to carry what you've been carrying. And instead of waiting for it to get easier, what if you just made the choice to get stronger? But it's important to note that you're only going to be getting stronger in survival mode if you choose to get stronger in survival mode. That's right, it is a choice. Now, I can explain this concept to you all day long, but I don't just want you to understand it, I want you to practice. I want you to have some experience with this because that's where the real change happens. And that's why I created the 3-day survival mode rescue sprint. It's completely free, and in just 3 days, you'll start to interrupt the crash out cycle. You'll learn how to set shame-free boundaries, and you'll finally feel what it's like to breathe again. Here's what we're going to cover in this 3-day sprint. On day 1, we're going to name the cycle. You'll learn to see the crash out pattern for what it is, not a character flaw, but a system that you've been running. We'll do a quick audit of what you're carrying, and you'll feel the relief that comes from getting it out of your head and onto paper. In day 2, you'll learn how to stop the spin. You'll learn how to interrupt the cycle in the moment, how to pause instead of absorb, how to park things instead of carrying them all at once. We'll practice the pause and park strategy so that you can catch yourself before the collapse. In day 3, you're going to redefine survival as success. You'll create your own bare minimum reset so that you can stop feeling guilty for not doing more and start feeling proud of what you're already doing. We'll reframe survival from weakness to strength. These aren't overwhelming assignments. These aren't homework projects that will stress you out more. These are simple, doable shifts that you can practice even when you're already at capacity. And here's the thing. If these 3 days resonate with you, if you find yourself thinking, yes, this is exactly what I needed to hear, then you'll be ready for the full 4-week journey to becoming survival mode strong. That's my brand new core program. It's a complete transformation that takes you from surviving to thriving right where you are. And thriving in survival mode looks like accepting and finding your strength in survival. It's not painting rainbows and sunshine over hard things. And maybe it's not anything in your external circumstances changing. Guess what, though? Your internal self changes. And that's always the driver of the ship. But before we get to all that, the sprint is your first step. This is going to be your first taste of what it feels like to carry your life differently. You can grab your spot right down in the show notes. It's completely free. It starts in September, and it will give you a taste of what it feels like to finally stop fighting against survival mode and start getting strong in it. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. You don't have to see or feel your strength yet. That's my job. It's my job to see it and feel it for you until you can. Know that I see you where you are, but I also see where you could be. And I'll hold that vision until you're ready to claim it for yourself. That gap, that tension that you're feeling between who you are and who you want to be, that's not what breaks you. That's actually what makes you strong. Every time you hold that tension instead of collapsing underneath it, you're proving something powerful. You're strong. And you're in the process of becoming survival mode strong. And here's what I want you to remember. You weren't always this tired, this stuck, or this disconnected. There was a time when you created for fun, when you led with imagination, when connection came easy and joy didn't need a plan. That version of you, the one who could trust herself, the one who could make decisions without second guessing, who could find joy in simple moments, she's still there. You don't need to become someone new. You just need permission to reconnect with who you've always been. The world says the goal is to get out of survival mode. And again, I say the goal is to get strong in it. And when you do, you stop waiting for life to calm down and you start building strength right where you are. And that's when everything changes. That's when you begin to become survival mode strong. I'm so excited to be here with you and to teach you how to move forward in this very same thing in the free 3-day reset sprint. Make sure you check the show notes to sign up. We get started soon. Until then, make it a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.